Hello, my dears. This is Annette of AnnetteLeonard.com, back again with Chronic Wellness. Thanks for joining me. I recently finished a book by Emily Henry called The People We Meet on Vacation. And it was a delightful romp of a novel where she did just a really spectacular job plumbing the human heart and our many fragilities and foibles. I think she did such an expert job of wrapping language around the ways in which we are confident and insecure, and how the tenderness of intimate relationships, both friendship and romantic, expose us to new layers of ourselves. And in the book, she had a quote that is something like, the idea that the more one got to know her, the character, the more she realized that she was afraid that they would get down to the ugly, the raw, the real, and then that she would discover, that the character, the other person would discover that she was unlovable and that there was only ugliness or things that weren't worth loving there. And I highlighted that passage and came back to it later because I think for any of us who carry any burden of shame or worthiness wounds, that's what's at the heart of it, right? Is this deep fear that when everything is stripped away, we will just be rejected. We will be found wanting. We'll come up short in the eyes of others. And that fear, that dissatisfaction and anxiety is almost too deep to bear. And so many of us deal with that in a myriad of ways, right? From people pleasing and hustling for our worthiness, to keeping people at arm's length, to making jokes at others' expense. I mean, you name it. Any kind of behavior can be a deflection technique to ensure that we're never known fully and truly for who we are. And what I think is also interesting about it, as is so often the case when we really pull these things apart, is that it's also a commentary on the other person we happen to be in relationship with too, because it's also saying that I'm somehow so skilled at some mirage or some facade that I'm maintaining that you can't see through, that somehow if I dropped that or you got around it, then you'd see something that you didn't like or didn't previously know. And so it's also maintaining that they are somehow dupable or foolish or kind of dim to not be able to already see what is right there in front of them. So on both ends of this are some erroneous assumptions. And I think that in a life without many obstacles, it's really easy to not ever have to examine these thinking errors. And when presented with a chronic illness that falls in your lap, when dealing with world-altering chronic pain, we don't often get the luxury of not having to examine these foibles in our ways of thinking or feeling about the world. And I was once again brought back to thinking about this in a conversation this weekend where a friend of a friend is having their world ground to a halt because of a life-altering surgery that is now turning everything on its ear and making them question, what is my worth if I'm not contributing to the partnership in the ways that I am accustomed? What is my value if I am not in the world of work? Will my partner be enthusiastic about staying if I don't participate in all the ways that they once were accustomed? And boy, are those cavernous questions, right? I mean, they're easy to like frame in a few words, but they are hard to wrap oneself around. And they are not simple to answer. I mean, of course, we'd all hope that the answer is yes, we'd rise to the occasion. And in these Western capitalized societies, capitalistic societies, our productivity is tied to output. And when our ability to output is radically shifted, it is hard to not take that as a commentary on our worth. And so these questions emerge about, what is my value? What is my worth? Is it intrinsic? Is it extrinsic? What do I have to do to earn it? What do I have to do to keep it? How do I demonstrate it? How do other people know that it's there? And as an external third party, it's so easy to look at another human being and say, your value is your existence. Your value is your very being. Your value is your you-ness. But being in the hot seat of those questions, it's less obvious and easy for me to say, my value is in my being. My value is in my meanness. My value is in the fact that I exist. And that's the goal. That is what I'm working toward. So just a few meditations on what the continued struggles are in a life that is defined differently than the lives perhaps of our peers. So I'm thinking about you, and if these are questions you're struggling with, you are not alone. You are not alone. Reach out if you care to. Sound off in the comments. Please like or subscribe or share this with someone who could use it. And until we're together again, I thank you for being here, and be well.